SummerSlam 2014 is a wrap, and it seems like the WWE got what they wanted out of this show. It seems like a lot of you that are watching this review surely got what you wanted out of this show. Did I get what I wanted out of this show? I don't know, and I don't know if I was ever going to get what I wanted out of this show, so it is what it is. But the ultimate question, I think, is, and it will only be answered in the weeks and months to come, is did the WWE get what they needed out of this show? And I think in large part that's going to determine how I ultimately view this show, is how the WWE follows up on it in the weeks and months ahead. There are a lot of things you can do to make your big show of the summer feel like a big show, and one of those things is not to sit there and take the Raw set and basically make it the SummerSlam set. I understand WWE has to cut a lot of money out of their operating budget because of their own doing, mind you. But this is such a critically important show. You would think they would do more to make this feel like a big deal, to make this feel like a big show, instead of just taking the lazy way out and saying, that's the Raw set. By God, that's going to be the SummerSlam set too. I mean, when you sit there and you tune in and that's the first thing you see, you feel like, man, this is supposed to be your big summer show, and you're basically treating it like another 3-hour Raw that just happens to be on the WWE Network for $9.99? Come on. I do have to say that the card structure for SummerSlam 2014 was really, really good. I thought the WWE put the right matches in the appropriate places. The card seemed to build on itself as the night went along, all culminating with the main event that felt like a main event. So often the WWE, in my opinion, really drops the boat on this, and man, they batted 1,000 in terms of how they structured this show for SummerSlam 2014, in my opinion. This really was a Jekyll and Hyde wrestling card, because the first half of the show was kind of unpredictable and had some surprises, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was good or great. And on the flip side, the second half of the show pretty much went to form and came across as being very predictable. But just because it went pretty much to plan and form and was very predictable for all parties involved, that doesn't necessarily make it bad either. You had an unpredictable start and a pretty predictable finish, but I might argue the second half of the show was better than the first half of the show. One thing WWE's been really good with over the years is putting together those 2 to 4 minute video packages, those hype packages that get the table set for the match to come. And it seemed like the WWE really skimped on this here. They were just sitting there showing random replays of things that happened on Raw and SmackDown or on old pay-per-views to kind of build up to the match. I thought the WWE could have done a much better job in terms of the flow of the show, maybe incorporating a few more regular hype video packages, maybe incorporating some interviews to hype up things that happen later on in the night. I thought this was a pretty big miss by the WWE, especially again for such a critically important show, your biggest show of the summer. I was surprised to see Hogan come out to start SummerSlam, and I'm like, oh, you know me, oh boy, it's the Hulkster brother. Except unlike WrestleMania 30, where you had that epic all-time segment with him, Austin, and The Rock, it's Hogan coming out to shill the fucking WWE Network on the WWE Network. And all this did was take time away for the first couple of matches on the card. This was unnecessary, completely pointless, and flat out stupid. You're advertising the network on the damn network. So the first surprise of the night, seeing Hogan, wasn't a good surprise. And then we got to the actual match card itself. Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship. At least the belt was being defended on your big show of the summer. Too often the IC title isn't defended on your pay-per-views, especially your bigger ones. So that was a good surprise. Miz and Ziggler, to no surprise, had really good in-ring chemistry again. These two guys really click and gel very well together. I felt bad for these guys because I thought they could have given us more if they were given more time. Because of the stupid shit with Hogan, unfortunately, weren't able to. Unfortunately, then came the bad surprise, and I'm sorry. Dolph Ziggler winning the IC title, to me, is stupid, because Ziggler is so much like what they would do with any other IC champion. Won't feature him on TV as a star every single week. They won't give him mic time. They won't put him in real feuds. Whereas with The Miz, they do all of those things. They put him in storylines. They give him mic time. They feature him like a big deal. Why put the belt on Ziggler? Why not keep it on The Miz? I don't get it. At least I could say, if nothing else, if you like good matches for the IC title, you'll get another one or two between Ziggler and Miz. So I guess you guys will be happy about that. Now you can circle jerk to Ziggler winning a title match on a pay-per-view, but I thought this was a bad surprise personally. Heading into this show, I was expecting Paige and AJ Lee, with the performers involved, with the story involved, to not just have a good Divas title match, but to have an actual good wrestling match, period. And there is an entirely different classification between the two. And I was surprised, yes, to see Paige win the title here over AJ Lee, but I don't really have a problem with that. My problem is how much this match surprised me in terms of how mediocre, if not bad, it was. Now, to be fair, maybe it was one of those things because of the stupid segment with Hogan. They had to take some time off of this. But Paige and AJ had a reason to be given a full 10 minutes or so. And instead, they got less than 5. I never got into this match. I didn't dig the story they were telling. And the finish went over for me like a fart in church. I was very disappointed, very surprised, and again, not in a good way. WWE, if you're going to bother having stipulation matches on your pay-per-views, especially one as critically important as SummerSlam, maybe you should actually explain the rules of the stipulation of the match, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that was kind of blowing in the breeze on what the hell was happening with this flag match between Rusev and Swagger. Maybe, yes, I was expecting the flags to be mounted in the corners, and whoever got their flag first won. Or maybe I was expecting something where the loser of the match had to salute the winner's flag. I don't know. I didn't get any of that. What I did get was a surprisingly decent wrestling match in terms of the ability and the attempt to try and tell a more traditional story here, and I thought it worked pretty well. But again, I was expecting something entirely different with this flag match than what I ultimately got. I was surprised, and not necessarily surprised in a good way. I was expecting to feel one way about this match based off of what they would do this way, and instead I felt a different way about this match, and they went in a different direction, and in a direction that I didn't particularly dig. And then we'll get to what I'm sure for many of you was your match of the night. Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins in this lumberjack match. You've been waiting for this match. You've been dying to see this match. And frankly, I've been dying to see this match too. I was pleased to see the WWE before the last pay-per-view basically seemed to do exactly what I told them to do, which was make us wait for Ambrose and Rollins. That was the right decision. But when Ambrose announced that the stipulation for this match was going to be a lumberjack match, I was very confused. I'm like, why would Ambrose's character want a lumberjack match? Wouldn't he really want to get at Rollins? Wouldn't he maybe, I don't know, want to take the briefcase away from him? Wouldn't that be one part of the whole reason they're feuding to begin with? Not to mention Rollins turning on the group. You know, maybe this would be the ultimate way to get him back. No, instead we have a dumb dick lumberjack match here. And I hated this fucking match. And the reason I hated this fucking match was the whole purpose of the lumberjacks is to keep Ambrose and Rollins in the damn ring. And all the while, the lumberjacks have this one job to do, and they can't fucking do it. Here's Ambrose and Rollins fighting all over the damn arena, and sure, they threw in the occasional high spot here, the spectacular shit that surely is going to fool a lot of you into thinking this was a great match, but it fucking wasn't. Then here comes Kane, and the lumberjacks are involved. Kane's fucking involved, and Rollins is winning in a bullshit way by hitting Ambrose in the face with the briefcase. Instead of taking this opportunity where you have this match perfectly set up, where they're perfectly placed right in the middle of the show, and giving these guys a real featured platform to say, hey, we are two of the future key pieces of the WWE. The WWE took the spotlight and shine off of them by focusing on the retarded-ass lumberjacks and stupid-ass Kane, who ruins pretty much everything that he's freaking involved with. This match to me was an utter and epic, complete, total disappointment. I expected one thing to happen and it to go one way, and the WWE completely surprised me and completely called an alternate direction, and I thought that direction, frankly, sucked. I mean, this match got about as much time as Stephanie versus Brie Bella did. If anything, this should have been the longest match on the show. This should have just been Ambrose and Rollins. And instead it wasn't. And I know a lot of you are going to be mad at me for not sucking the dick of this match, but I'm sorry, the stipulation of the match was stupid. Kane's involvement was stupid. The finish was stupid. This match ended up being a disappointment and surprisingly fucking stupid. So like I said, the first half of the show had some surprises, some elements of spontaneity and unpredictability, but that didn't necessarily make it good. Then we get to the second half of the show. And I think most people were assuming that Bray Wyatt was going to beat Chris Jericho, so it's not really a surprise. And this match pretty much went to plan and was pretty predictable in how it was going to play out. But again, that doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing. Everything that this match wasn't at the last pay-per-view. This match was at this pay-per-view. I thought this was well worked. I thought this was well booked. I thought the finish was well executed. This was a really good match. This felt like a marquee spot and moment for a Bray Wyatt, giving him a signature victory at a Big Four pay-per-view. The way the WWE used to bother when they wanted to build new stars. Everything that this match wasn't the last time, it was this time around. So even though you knew it might happen, that doesn't make it bad. In fact, it makes it very good because the WWE actually did it. I think everybody also pretty much expected that there was going to be some type of squirreliness with Stephanie versus Brie Bella, and that might lead to Nikki Bella turning heel on her sister, and ultimately that's the direction they went. But again, that doesn't necessarily make this a bad direction. I was really surprised to see how this match was set up and how this match played out. I was expecting a physical type of cat fight, and I got more of a wrestling match, and I thought that that was going to be a bad thing, but I think it really worked well, and it's striking to me, while so many fans are sitting there and praising Paige and AJ Lee and talking about how great they are as divas and how sexy they are, I sit there and say to myself, have our standards dropped that fucking far? Look at Stephanie McMahon! Now that is a fucking diva. That is a hot, sexy woman, and by God, her in heel bitch mode freaking works. And this match, surprisingly to me, worked for me. I thought Stephanie was genius in this whole match. I love the way Triple H kind of put his big nose in it, but not too much. They kept Brie out of the way, so she didn't fuck anything up. And then Nikki with the big turn, you could see it coming. It was telegraphed, but it still worked. Just because you could see it coming, just because it was kind of predictable, it doesn't mean it was bad. A lot of times it's about execution, and I thought the execution of this match was very, very good. I'll admit I had my trepidations and concerns about Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns. I thought this match could go in any number of different directions, and when this match started, I was expecting it to go down a bad path because I'm looking at Orton and I'm like, oh, don't do this, Randy. Be bigger than this. This kid needs you. You need to help make this guy. It's not always about you. And to Randy Orton's credit, he didn't sit there and sandbag. He didn't sit there and act like a punk bitch in this match. He made this match. This match between Roman Reigns and Randy Orton, frankly, to me, ended up being a lot better than it maybe had any business being. The funny thing is, when you look back at this historically, this was the match that got the most time of the entire night. Maybe a little too much time, maybe not. But Roman Reigns did what Roman Reigns needed to do here, and he shined. And Randy Orton, to his credit, and I will give him credit here, did a lot more than I was expecting him to do, and he really sat there, I think, and did everything he could to make Roman Reigns look like $1 million, to make Roman Reigns look like he should be a future top star for the WWE. You knew more likely than not Reigns was going to beat Orton, but again, just because you saw it coming, it doesn't mean it was bad. I thought this was well done, and this is one of these, again, signature victories at a Big Four pay-per-view that helps make a new star. Well done by Randy Orton. Well done by WWE. So some of the future stars of the company, like Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt and Roman Reigns, got signature victories at a Big Four pay-per-view. That's a good thing. Well done by the WWE. That's a way that you help create new stars. But at the end of the day, this show was all about one match and one thing, and that was Brock Lesnar versus John Cena for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. This has been the match that WWE's been wanting for a while. This has been the match that a lot of you have been pining for and wanting for a while. Well, you got it. And I hope you're happy with it. And I hope you can live with it. I'll say this, first off. Brock Lesnar in his return to WWE has brought something fresh to the table in a way. He feels like a special attraction. When he wrestles or fights, if you will, it feels like a big fight. And it definitely felt that way here with him versus Cena for the title. This felt like a big fight. And I also like how Brock Lesnar's matches themselves have this kind of hybrid feeling to them. They feel unique. They feel much different in their way they're worked and the way they're presented than anything else on the card. And far too often in WWE, you get the same type of WWE World Heavyweight Championship match, main eventing every show. Well, you don't get that here. You get something entirely different. And that is a good thing. Now, First thing I do want to say to those that are getting their jollies off to the thought of Brock Lesnar completely dismantling and destroying and kicking the shit out of John Cena is that if it was Daniel Bryan in this spot, which it very possibly could have been if things would have went originally according to plan, a lot of you would be using your flaming keyboard fingers of fire to shit all over this. And I don't want to sit there and hear a bunch of people say that they wouldn't, because I call bullshit. Look at all the whining and crying and bitching that so many of you did after the Royal Rumble when Daniel Bryan wasn't even in the fucking Royal Rumble match. So I am expected to believe that the guy that you said had to win the belt at WrestleMania 30 or fuck the WWE, you would be perfectly okay with Brock Lesnar dismantling your yes hero in the main event of SummerSlam. Bullshit on that. It's because of your hatred for John Cena. It's because of your frustration with the WWE and the way they have booked and presented and pushed and forced and crammed John Cena down your throat for almost the past decade that you're okay with this. That's a fact. Let's not dispute that. Also, when we look at this, just because you wanted it, just because the WWE wanted it, didn't necessarily mean it was the right thing to do. And I look at the match itself. I mean, this was kind of a boring match to sit through. And no, I wasn't expecting it to be some type of, dramatic wrestling extravaganza. It almost pretty much went how I expected it to go. Maybe not quite to that degree, but I expected it by and large to be a Brock Lesnar ass-kicking handed to John Cena. And we got that, and so much more. And I know, again, a lot of you enjoyed it because it was Brock Lesnar doing it more so to John Cena. And you enjoyed, after almost a decade of the John Cena problem and having to live with and endure the John Cena monster. Finally, here's the Brock monster coming and saying, Jimmy John's kicking your ass. And a lot of you were like, yeah, hooray, Brock Lesnar's kicking the shit out of John Cena. This is awesome. This is a revenge for almost a decade of his bullshit. But then you get to the point where, it was almost too much. It almost transcended to the point of not being believable. Here's the same Brock Lesnar that, mind you, John Cena beat at Extreme Rules 2012. This is the same Brock Lesnar who lost to Triple H at WrestleMania 29. And now all of a sudden, he's completely and totally dominating John Cena, a 15-time world champion, because he beat the streak at WrestleMania 30. Oh, get the fuck out of here. The storytelling of this, in a way, was completely out of whack and completely out of fucking sorts. Furthermore, I think this match has some potentially dire and unforeseen consequences for you as fans and for the WWE as well. Now you've taken a guy in John Cena who, yes, he's the monster, so to speak. He's been the problem with WWE for so many years, and he's dominated. But still, occasionally people get over on him, and he actually, has competitive matches and so on and so forth, but he's still the dominant figure. Now here comes Brock Lesnar, who completely kicks the shit out of this guy. If a John Cena is no challenge, if John Cena stands no chance against a Brock Lesnar, then who the fuck does? And you have to be very careful here because this could do a couple of things. One, Brock Lesnar was so awesome and so much of an ass kicker and did it clean, mind you, that the WWE could end up taking a heel Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman and turning him into a babyface Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman. And a heel Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman works much better than a babyface Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman. And the way the crowd reacted, especially with who he was kicking the shit out of, did you really want to turn the guy that ended the streak just 4+ months earlier into a babyface? Well, WWE, we'll see what you do on Raw this week, but I guarantee you, you just fucking did. And is that what you really had planned? Is that what you really wanted to do? Furthermore, if a John Cena can't contend with a Brock Lesnar, who can, also creates a problem too, because you could sit there and say, this guy's dominant, this guy's a monster, but at some point in time, there has to be at least some level of competition. There has to be somebody that could really challenge this guy. And for God's sakes, if a John Cena didn't, then who the hell could? You could have made Brock Lesnar potentially too much of a monster. And not only are you putting over the UFC, over the WWE, but you're creating a problem where the UFC is so superior to the WWE that the WWE falls short and the people start to say, you know what? I don't really want to watch Lesnar because what's the point? He's just going to kick everybody's ass. And again, some unintended consequences that aren't necessarily good for the company short term and long term. I mean, just think about that for a second. And also keep this in mind. For all of you that are getting your rocks and jollies off to John Cena getting his ass kicked and losing here, he's got a rematch coming, and I'm assuming it's coming at Night of Champions. And there's a reason that they mention over and over that he got 16 German suplexes. There's a reason they mentioned that. They went out of their way to specifically mention a specific number of German suplexes. 16. What does 16 equal? How many title reigns John Cena would have the next time he wins the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Just keep that in mind. There's a rematch coming. And what are you going to do if after SummerSlam and they did this, then they come back at Night of Champions and John Cena finds the way to win? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not even saying it's likely to happen. But what if it does? Then you will have felt chipped. Then you will have felt really ripped off because you'll sit there and say, the WWE gave me what I thought I wanted, and then it ended up just becoming even more of the same old shit, and now I'm even more pissed off because the WWE just dick teased me. And even with that being said, I don't want to hear anybody fucking complain down the road if Brock Lesnar holds this belt for a long period of time, because again, so many of you fucking wanted this, and the WWE fucking wanted this. So if live event attendance is down because the champion's never there, if ratings are down because the champion's almost never there, if you become as fans disinterested in the company because the champion's almost never there, well, you fucking wanted it, so you need to live with it. Period. I mean, what are you going to do? Rematch with Cena at Night of Champions. Maybe Batista comes back and faces him at Survivor Series of the Royal Rumble, and then you set up to either Brock versus Rock maybe, or Brock versus Roman at WrestleMania 31. Again, this is what the WWE wanted, I guess. And apparently this is what a lot of you wanted as well. Just be careful for what you wish for. Be careful what you want, because you just might get it. I hope you guys can live with the consequences and can deal with what might potentially happen. It'll be very interesting to see what does go down. The good thing about SummerSlam 2014 to me, though, is that with me doing the SummerSlam review series and looking back at all the old shows, it gives me some good perspective in terms of what good SummerSlams look like and bad SummerSlams look like. This is definitely a much, much better show than, let's say, SummerSlam 06, 07, or 2010. This probably is in the category of a 2008 or a 2009. This overall was a good, solid show. I personally liked the second half of the show a lot better than the first half of the show. And that's funny because, again, the second half of the show was kind of predictable and pretty much went to plan and form. But I thought it was executed better and done so much better than what the first half of the show was. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you're ready to deal with it. Let me know if you really got what you wanted. Did you really get what you want?